back. Today we're going to talk about solving simple equations, and one of the things about solving simple equations that is really key to remember is that we are going to be using some of these mathematical properties to help us solve. And so the first one that we're going to discuss is the addition property of equality. And if you think about equality, that means the same. Okay, so equality means the same. So the addition property of equality is adding the same number to each side of an equation. It produces an equivalent equation. Equivalent means equal, so that the equations are the same. So, for example, if I'm looking at this, so if A equals B, then A plus C equals B plus C. So, a silly example would be if 5 equals 5, then 5 plus 3 equals 5 plus 3. It seems silly, I know. But when we get into these equations that have x's or y's or b's or all these numbers, it's important to remember the root of this. Adding the same thing to both sides produces an equivalent equation. Same thing for the subtraction property of equality. If A equals B, then A minus C equals B minus C. For example, if 10 equals 10, then 10 minus 2 equals 10 minus 2. Silly, silly, silly. 8 equals 8. Yeah, I get it. Mr. Saris, what are we talking about? But when we get these equations with these x's and these y's and these b's, we get all caught up in the variable and the algebra and the names. Remember, doing the same thing to both sides produces an equivalent equation. So let's solve a couple of equations. I'm trying to figure out what x is. So my goal, get x, gex, that's just silly. Get x alone. Because if I have x on one side, it's going to tell me what it equals. So for example, x minus 7 equals negative 6. So we want to undo subtracting 7. So a way to think about it would be like this. I have an operation here, minus 7. So if I add 7, that's going to undo that subtraction because I'm trying to get x by itself. So I'm subtracting 7. So if I add 7, I must do the same thing to both sides because that's going to produce an equivalent expression. And so what I'm going to have left is these go away because minus 7 plus 7 is going to be 0. So x equals, and then I've got negative 6 plus 7. Well, if I think about that, I've got 1 there. Okay, so if I check my answer, is 1 minus 7 equal to minus 6? See, I plugged in my example, and that's a question mark there because I don't know if that's true. Well, 1 minus 7 is negative 6, and negative 6 equals negative 6. So I undid the subtracting 7. Let's try another example. My goal is to get y by itself. So I'm going to undo plus 3.4. So I'm going to undo adding 3.4. Well, to undo adding 3.4, I will subtract 3.4. So y equals. Now I need to do a little bit of mental math here. And so if I look at this, it's the same as saying 3.4 minus 0.5. Okay, so that would give me, if I can borrow here, and this would be a 14, so this would be 9, and then 2.9. Well, the minus 3.4 is bigger, so I know this is going to be negative. So if I started out, I had a number line. This is 0, and this is 1. If I started out at 0.5, and I went backwards 3.4, that would be, and I know my number is 2.9, so that's going to be negative 2.9. Okay, so y equals negative 2.9. Well, the question is, if I check this, is negative 2.9, I'm plugging this in for y, is negative 2.9 plus 3.4 equal to 0.5. Well, 2.9 plus 2.9 would be 0, plus another 0.5 would be 0.5, so 0.5 equals 0.5. It's good. It's a very good thing. We checked our answer, ended up okay. Here we've got a bunch of different strange things that we're thinking, I don't even know what that symbol means. This symbol is called pi, and it roughly represents 3.14, but it's really the ratio of the diameter of a circle to the circumference of a circle to the diameter. But I'm adding h plus 2 pi equals 3 pi. Well, this is really just a number. And so I can add and subtract it the same way. So I'm going to undo plus 2 pi. Well, to undo plus 2 pi, I'm going to subtract 2 pi from both sides. And because, remember, subtraction property of equality, I've got to do the same thing to both sides. So h equals, and I've got 2 pi, sorry, I've got 3 pi, 3 pi's, minus 2 pi, 2 pi's. So 3 pi's minus 2 pi's is going to give me 1 pi. That seems silly. But if I have a check here, and I plug that in, is 1 pi plus 2 pi equal to, put a question mark because I'm asking the question, 3 pi. Is that true? Well, yes, 3 pi equals 3 pi. That's the basics of solving simple equations. I'm undoing the original problem, and I'm doing the same thing to both sides. So these are for you. I want you to try these. So you're going to undo everything except the variable. So undo the operations and make sure you do the same thing to both sides. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.